Forbiddance notes dia. Ilias Mercer wiped sweat from his brow as he carefully extracted sap from the pulsing azure flora. The Nixaran twilight cast everything in a dreamlike glow, making the crystalline landscape shimmer like scattered diamonds. 3 moons hung low in the violet sky, illuminating his makeshift research station at the forest's edge. Sample 47 displays increased luminosity during the 3rd moons. Zenith, he dictated into his recorder before switching to his personal log. His voice softened. Saw her again today, watching from the crystal spires. Princess Lyria Zephyra. The way she moves like light through water. Elias paused, feeling foolish. 6 months on this alien world, and he was behaving like a lovesick teenager. He should be focused on the revolutionary properties of Nixaran plant life, not daydreaming about an unattainable alien princess with iridescent skin and eyes that seemed to peer directly into his soul. Her pattern language is becoming more decipherable to me, he continued nonetheless. The swirls across her forearms pulse with emotion, bright when curious, deep azure when thoughtful. Today they formed constellations I hadn't seen before when our eyes met. The next morning, Elias awoke to find his lab in disarray. Nothing damaged, but everything slightly rearranged. His encrypted tablet lay open on his workbench, displaying his private entries. Cold dread washed over him. Your observations are intriguing, Dr. Mercer. He whirled around. Princess Lyria stood in the doorway, tall and willowy, her skin catching the morning light like mother of pearl. The patterns across her face and neck shimmered with what he'd come to recognize as amusement. Your Highness, his words failed him. How could he explain the inappropriate fascination documented in those notes? You dream of me? She asked, head tilting curiously. Her voice carried the musical quality all Nixarans possessed, but with an intimacy that made his heart race. My research requires detailed observation, he managed lamely. Indeed. Lyria glided closer. Yet you record the shifting patterns of my skin with greater precision than your botanical specimens. Elias felt heat rise to his face. I apologize for any offense. I am not offended, she interrupted, her patterns shifting to deep violet, a color he couldn't interpret. I am curious. Humans experience emotion so vividly, so chaotically. You feel without patterns to guide you. She lifted a slender hand, almost touching his chest before pulling back. The Council forbids meaningful contact between our kinds. They fear contamination of thought. And what do you fear, Your Highness? Elias asked, finding unexpected courage. Her eyes, multifaceted like polished amethysts, studied him intensely. I fear I may find your chaos ... compelling. That would be most inconvenient for us both. Before he could respond, she placed his tablet in his hands. Your encryption is impressive, but our technology is different. Perhaps we might exchange knowledge officially, of course. As she turned to leave, her skin pulsed with a pattern he'd never seen, like scattered starlight. Tomorrow. The bioluminescent grotto. For research purposes. When she vanished, Elias realized he'd been holding his breath. Whatever had just happened would likely end his career or possibly spark something magnificent. Whispers across worlds. 3. Weeks of clandestine meetings in the bioluminescent grotto had transformed Elias's research and his heart. Each evening, as Nixara's 3 moons rose in sequence, Princess Lyria would arrive with ancient texts on native flora or demonstrate how her people communed with the living crystals. Your species' scientific approach is fascinating, Lyria remarked, her patterns shifting to an inquisitive gold as she examined his microscope. You dissect and categorize. We seek to understand through resonance. Tonight, she sat closer than usual, her luminescence casting gentle shadows across the cave walls. The air between them seemed charged with unspoken tension. May I? She asked suddenly, extending her hand. Elias nodded, unsure what she intended. Her fingers hovered over his wrist, not quite touching. The sensation that followed was indescribable, like music translated into feeling, washing through his consciousness. What was that? He whispered when she withdrew. Empathic resonance. It's how we understand others. Her pattern swirled with deeper colors. Your emotions are intense, disordered but beautiful. What did you feel? His voice had grown hoarse. Fascination, wonder, longing. Her eyes met his. Desire. The word hung between them like a forbidden spell. Interspecies relationships weren't just discouraged on Nixara, they were explicitly prohibited by the Council of Elders, who believed emotional entanglement with humans would corrupt their collective consciousness. We shouldn't, Elias said, even as he leaned closer. No, she agreed, not moving away. My father has already questioned my interest in your research. Their foreheads nearly touched. He could feel the warmth emanating from her skin, see the rapid pulse of light patterns expressing emotions he was only beginning to understand. Elias, she whispered, his name sounding like poetry in her melodic voice. If we continue this path. A sharp sound echoed through the grotto, footsteps approaching. They pulled apart instantly. Sentinel patrol, she hissed. They shouldn't be here. Elias gathered his equipment while Lyria moved toward the entrance. Tomorrow night, she whispered. The Eastern Crystal Forest. There's something I need to show you. As he slipped away through a hidden passage she'd shown him, Elias knew they were treading on dangerous ground. His research grant required neutrality emotional. Involvement with native species was grounds for immediate extraction from Nixara, but as the image of her luminescent patterns played in his mind, he realized it was already too late. Science had become secondary to the mystery of her. Shimmering boundaries, the Eastern Crystal Forest gleamed under starlight, towering formations catching and refracting the moon's glow into prismatic rainbows. Elias checked his wrist device again. Lyria was late, unusual for her precise nature. When she finally appeared, her normally bright patterns were muted, her movements tense. What's wrong? He asked immediately. The council knows. Her voice was tight. Not everything, but enough. Someone reported seeing a human in the sacred grotto. Elias felt cold dread settle in his stomach. Will they send me back to Earth? It's worse. She paced, crystalline particles crunching beneath her steps. My father believes you've been extracting essence from our sacred plants to create a weapon, something to make humans immune to our empathic abilities. That's absurd. Elias protested. My research is purely botanical. I've never. I know, she interrupted, patterns briefly flashing with trust. But samples have gone missing from the Royal Conservatory, rare specimens with properties that could theoretically disrupt our neural pathways. And your name was in the access logs. Understanding dawned. Someone's framing me. But why? The purists have been gaining influence. They believe any human presence corrupts Nixara. She moved closer, her voice dropping. But I didn't bring you here to discuss politics. She led him deeper into the forest until they reached a clearing dominated by an enormous crystal formation shaped like a perfect spiral. In its center floated what appeared to be liquid starlight. This is the heart of resonance, she explained, the source of our empathic abilities. I'm breaking dozens of taboos showing you this. Lyria, I don't understand. I need to know if what I feel is real. Her pattern surged with intense color. When we touch the heart together, there can be no deception between us. No cultural misunderstandings. Just truth. She extended her hand. If we're discovered, I'll be stripped of my title. You'll be banished. But I need to know if this connection is worth fighting for. Elias hesitated only a moment before taking her hand. As their intertwined fingers touched the liquid crystal, the world exploded into pure sensation. Memories, emotions, desires flowed between them, his childhood on Earth, her royal responsibilities, their shared passion for discovery, and something deeper taking root between them. When they pulled away, breathless, her patterns matched the rhythm of his heartbeat. "Now I understand," she whispered, eyes wide with wonder. "Your chaos complements my order." Their first kiss was tentative, a bridge between worlds. Her lips felt like warm silk against his, the contact sending ripples of light cascading across her skin. As they embraced under the triple moonlight, neither noticed the shadowy figure retreating through the crystal forest, clutching stolen research samples and wearing the insignia of the Nixaran High Council. Fractured skies, the summons came at dawn, armed sentinels surrounding Elias's research station, their crystalline armor glinting menacingly in the early light. The lead guard's expression remained impassive as he delivered the message. "Dr. Elias Mercer, you are required to appear before the High Council immediately to answer charges of theft and biological sabotage." Escorted through the crystalline metropolis, Elias observed the suspicious glances of Nixaran citizens. News traveled quickly on a world where emotions rippled through collective consciousness. The magnificent council chamber, with its soaring spires and liquid crystal displays, would have fascinated him under different circumstances. 5 elders sat in a crescent formation, their ancient patterns pulsing with slow, deliberate rhythms. In the center stood Chief Elder Thalos, Lyria's father, his expression severe and unyielding. "Human," Thalos began, "evidence indicates you have stolen sacred botanical specimens with properties that could neutralize our empathic abilities. How do you respond?" Before Elias could speak, the chamber doors burst open. Lyria entered, her royal attire replaced by a researcher's garb, her patterns blazing with determination. "Father, these accusations are fabricated," she announced. "I've accessed the security recordings." Murmurs rippled through the chamber as Lyria projected a holographic image showing Counselor Vex, the youngest council member and leader of the Purist faction, removing samples from the conservatory while wearing gloves bearing Elias's DNA signature. "This is outrageous," Vex sputtered. "The princess is clearly compromised by inappropriate feelings for this human." "Is this true, daughter?" Thalos asked, his pattern shifting to concern. Lyria straightened, luminescence pulsing proudly. "My connection with Dr. Mercer is irrelevant to his innocence." "I disagree," interjected Elder Mira, her ancient eyes analyzing Lyria's patterns. "Your emotions are visible to all with the wisdom to read them. You formed a bond with this human." Thalos rose, towering over the assembly. "This matter requires deeper investigation. Both the human and Counselor Vex will be confined while we determine the truth." As guards approached, a tremendous explosion rocked the chamber. The crystal ceiling fractured, raining shimmering shards. Through the chaos, Elias spotted Vex escaping with several Purist supporters. "They're accelerating their plan." Lyria shouted above the commotion. "Father, the botanical extracts, they're weaponizing them against the human settlement." Thalos's patterns flashed with urgent commands to his guards. Turning to Elias and Lyria, his expression softened momentarily. "If what you say is true, we have little time. Can your science counter this threat, human?" "With Lyria's help," Elias replied, meeting the chief elder's gaze. "Our knowledge combined might create a neutralizing agent." As they rushed to Elias's lab, Lyria's hand brushed against his. "I didn't reveal everything," she whispered. "The heart of resonance showed me more a future possibility where our worlds unite rather than divide." "One problem at a time," Elias replied, though his heart leapt at her words. First, we prevent a war. Outside, the sky darkened with storm clouds generated by Nixera's defense systems. The planet itself seemed to sense the coming conflict, its crystalline structures resonating with a mournful harmonic that echoed Elias's unspoken fear that loving Lyria might cost both their worlds dearly. Constellation of Hearts' pale dawn light filtered through the kiln. Repaired crystal dome of the Grand Assembly. Hall. 3 days had passed since Elias and Lyria had synthesized a countermeasure to Vex's bioweapon Apollon-like substance that neutralized the toxic compound before it could sever the Nixeran's empathic connections. Now representatives from both species gathered beneath the spectral light of the planet's 3 moons, visible even in daylight during this rare celestial alignment that occurred once per Nixeran year a time, traditionally reserved for momentous decisions. Elias stood before the assembly in formal attire provided by Lyria, flowing fabric embedded with responsive crystals that glimmered in harmony with his emotions. Despite his attempts at calm, the crystals pulsed with nervous energy. The events of recent days have demonstrated both the peril and promise of our coexistence. Chief Elder Thalos began, his patterns reflecting judicial solemnity. Counselor Vex's betrayal sought to divide us through fear. Yet it was the union of human science and Nixeran empathy that preserved our collective consciousness. Lyria stepped forward, her royal regalia magnificent yet subdued. The patterns across her skin formed complex equations, a deliberate melding of scientific notation and emotional expression that made Elias smile despite the tension. Honored Assembly, she addressed the gathered representatives, we propose a new covenant between our peoples. Not mere tolerance or cautious collaboration, but true integration of our knowledge systems. Elias continued where she left off, their presentation seamlessly interwoven. Our research has identified symbiotic potential between human cognitive processes and Nixeran empathic abilities. With your permission, we wish to establish an exchange program emerging of minds and methodologies. Murmurs cascaded through the assembly. An elder rose, her ancient patterns skeptical. And what of the resonance taboo? The prohibition against emotional entanglement between our species was established for valid reasons. Lyria's patterns briefly flickered with nervousness before resolving into steady determination. We believe this taboo was based on fear rather than understanding. I offer myself as evidence. With ceremonial grace, she extended her hand to Elias. As their fingers intertwined, her patterns flowed onto his skin, temporarily imprinting him with luminescent whirls that matched her own. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The heart of resonance has accepted him, she explained. Our connection strengthens rather than diminishes our respective natures. It is not contamination, it is evolution. Thalos studied them, his expression unreadable until, unexpectedly, his pattern shifted to reveal acceptance. My daughter has always seen possibilities where others perceive limitations. Perhaps this is Nixera's true destiny, not isolation, but integration. He raised his hands, initiating the ritual of new beginning. Crystal fragments descended from the dome, hovering around Elias and Lyria as they stood united before both their peoples. By the light of 3 moons and the wisdom of 2 worlds, Thalos intoned, I recognize this union not merely between 2 beings, but as a template for our shared future. The hovering crystals coalesced into delicate circlets that settled upon their heads, connecting them with a gossamer strand of luminescence. Later that night, in the privacy of the royal gardens, Elias traced the patterns flowing across Lyria's skin, now partially mirrored on his own where their bond had left its mark. Your father called it a template for the future, he murmured. That's quite a responsibility. Lyria's laugh carried the musical quality he adored. He always was dramatic, but I prefer to think of it as the first constellation in a new sky one we chart together. As they kissed beneath the triple moons, the garden's bioluminescent flora responded to their shared joy, creating a private aurora that illuminated two beings from different worlds who had discovered that love, like light, transcends all boundaries when given the freedom to shine.